We have some real issues in Iowa that are tearing families apart. They are leading Iowans to despair. They are denying Iowans opportunities for simply making a mistake. They are issues that are costing us millions of dollars in taxpayer money. And for years, no politician has wanted to address the issues of criminal justice reform in a serious manner. Doing so, they thought, would be political suicide. But the simple fact is that we cannot continue to kick this can down the road any farther. Every year that we kick this can down the road, the problem gets worse and worse. We've got real problems in the state of Iowa, and we can no longer ignore them. The simple fact is that we are running out of prison space. That Iowa's prison population is expected to grow by 39% in the next 9 years. Iowa leads the United States in the rate of racial disparities of marijuana arrests. The simple fact is that African Americans make up only 2% of Iowa's population, but 24% of the prison population. In 2010, we spent $276 million on Iowa prisoners, and that came out to about $33,000 per Iowa inmate. Marijuana cultivation in the state carries a maximum sentence of 50 years in prison. In addition to that, we have mandatory minimums. That means judges are giving people harsher sentences than what they would ordinarily give. And the state of Iowa also has a real problem with property rights. The fact is that Iowa has a D ranking from the Institute of Justice on civil asset forfeiture, meaning Iowans are denied due process, where the burden of proof is placed on the individual instead of the state to take your property from you. 30% of Iowa prisoners suffer from mental illness, and in 2013, more than 400 Iowans committed suicide, which was an increase of 17% from the year before. These are real problems that we face, and for far too long we have ignored, and the problems have only gotten worse and worse and worse as we've ignored them. The simple fact is that we have an issue that's tearing families apart, and it creates this cycle of crime, cycle of despair that occurs. In this state, a teenager can make a mistake, as teenagers often do, make a bad decision. They can be caught for possession of a plant that grows wild in our backyards, and then they can suffer a lifetime of repercussions for that mistake, that youthful indiscretion. Their children can be taken away if they have children. They'll lose their right to gun ownership, to vote. They can lose opportunities at going to college to better themselves. They can lose opportunities for work for the rest of their working careers. And this leads to a cycle of despair that causes more crime. It breaks up families. Prohibition of alcohol did not work back in the early 1900s. It propped up dangerous alcohol cartels at that time. Now we have the same thing with dangerous drug cartels. We have dangerous people being propped up by a war that has spent billions of dollars and has not decreased the addiction or the use of illegal drugs by any amount. And in fact, it's made it very difficult for people to seek the help that they actually need. In the state, one thing that we should do, and I would do as governor, would be to appoint a committee that would review every prison sentence, and we would commute the sentence and expunge the record of anyone that is only in prison for a victimless crime. We would get them the help they needed, and we would stop spending $33,000 a year on keeping someone in prison while we are faced with the very real reality of letting dangerous criminals go free, letting child molesters, rapists, murderers, robbers go free to fill up space for nonviolent drug offenders that need help. We would focus on a restitution of victims. If you've harmed somebody, you should pay restitution to that victim. Now, the whole system of punishment, that doesn't really help the victim. Restitution doesn't completely help either. I could never say that a victim of rape or child molestation or robbery or violent crime, you can never fully restitute for that. But it does go a long way in helping the victims. And that's certainly a much better idea and system than we've got today. We need to restore the voting rights of those who have paid for their crime and served their time. We also need to respect your civil liberties. The burden of proof in civil asset forfeiture should be on the state of Iowa, not on the individual who's had their property taken and will have their property held for many, many months if they ever get the opportunity of getting that back, even though they have often committed no crime whatsoever. I will support your gun rights. I will support your right to defend your property. And I'm also asking and calling on you to help end the stigma of mental illness that exists in the state and in our country, for that matter. It costs far less for us to treat mental illness and addiction than to pay almost $33,000 to keep somebody in prison. Addiction and mental health in themselves are not crimes, and we need to work together to help those who need help out. We cannot stand by while over 400 Iowans, 400 preventable deaths occur by suicide each year. We are more familiar with mental health issues and all know somebody who suffers from mental health issues than most of us admit or are willing to admit. It is time that we stop hiding from this issue and other issues. It is time to start treating our friends, family members, and even ourselves with the respect and dignity that every human being deserves. Let's help people. Let's end the cycle of despair that is tearing families apart, that is keeping people in prison, denying people opportunities for the rest of their lifetime for a youthful indiscretion. It is time we look at reforming the criminal justice system in the state of Iowa.